Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I'm going to talk about how 25% mixed people deserve a voice too. So I've noticed that a lot of people, they like to gaslight people who are 25% black, or maybe they're 25% white, 25% Asian, and they like to throw them into the monoracial category. But what those people don't realize is just because you throw them into the monoracial category, that doesn't mean that that's how they see themselves. The world doesn't revolve around you. And I've noticed that a lot of people, they just like to use those things as a silencing tactic. They don't like that we are differentiating ourselves and discussing the nuances of our experiences. So it's like, just like you get to talk about your experience as a Latin American person or an Asian person or an unambiguous mono black person, we also have a right to discuss our experiences as well. And I've noticed that, especially when it comes to people who are 75% black. So let's say, I know that these are just rough examples, but let's say you're kind of like Rihanna or Beyonce or Ryan Destiny or Chile from TLC, or someone who has kind of more African ancestry than anything else. A lot of people will try to invalidate you and they'll say, well, you go through the same racism as me, the same colorism, same texturism, same featureism. You have the same exact experiences. And number one, that's false, because for a lot of people with mixed ancestry, not only is their DNA mixed, but usually if they were raised around those family members, their background is also multicultural as well. I know that's not the case for all mixed race people, but even if somebody does have commonalities with you, that doesn't mean that they deserve to be silenced. And I feel like a lot of people have silenced mixed black people from speaking up because they feel like, oh, well, you're still black. But the point of us speaking out about our experiences is not so we can talk down on blackness or separate ourselves from blackness or pretend like our blackness doesn't exist. All we're doing is having a space to talk about our experiences and the nuances of our experiences. Just like how dark-skinned black women, they talk about their experiences specifically with being dark-skinned. I don't hear people saying, well, you're still black, like we're all shades of blackness or whatever, so you guys shouldn't be able to talk about being dark-skinned. No, they have a right to discuss exactly what they go through and the special circumstances that are surrounding their lives and their skin tones. So just like other people get to focus on their particular skin tones and their particular hair textures, we also on this channel can focus on our particular mixtures, or we can talk about being multi-generationally mixed and what that means to us and how we choose to embrace and love every side of ourselves. But I've noticed that whenever a person feels like their own experiences are invalid, they will try to invalidate yours. So I've noticed, for example, on this channel, whenever I talk about pretty girl problems, a lot of people will try to come on here and be like, well, I'm unambiguous, I have the same experience. And it's like, just because you have the same experience doesn't mean that I have to revolve my channel around you. I have the right to talk about whatever I want to talk about from my perspective. And I just feel like a lot of times people make those comments as a way to invalidate you. And it's kind of like giving the you're not special talking point, where it's like, well, guys want to talk to me too. Guys try to hit on me too. Well, you got a guy's phone number. I got a guy's phone number too. And so, in my opinion, that's giving a sense of competition. It's giving you feel threatened by the fact that that person is, talking about what they go through. And also, it's funny how people will say acknowledge your privilege, but then when we do acknowledge our privilege on this channel, then people want to get mad. So for example, this channel focuses on the nuances that mixed black women experience, and also the black women who look mixed, who are of majority African descent. I'm talking about women who are 80% black, 90% African, women who look like Tyra Banks. So according to them, they feel like they only identify as black, or like that's their culture, that's all they know. But because of how they look, they have nuances in their experiences, and they have unique experiences that only come from them looking mixed or them being mixed race. So that's what this channel focuses on. And I also talk about the privileges that we benefit from on this channel. I talk all about it. I talk about people who benefit from colorism, texturism, featureism, pretty privilege. I talk about all of the different nuances that we have experienced. And then when I acknowledge our privilege and when I say, yes, a lot of us do get treated like we are quote unquote pretty because people exotify us. I just kind of made up that word. But people exotify us, or they fetishize our beauty, or they simply like our beauty and our look, and they like the aesthetic or whatever. And so that causes us to receive privilege in certain circumstances. But then when I admit that on this channel and go into depth about that experience, then suddenly people are like, oh, well, you're trying to equate being mixed to being pretty. And my response is, other women call their groups pretty all the time. I've heard Korean women say, oh, Korean women are very beautiful. I don't go and argue with Korean women and say, excuse me, not all Korean women are beautiful. Some of you guys are ugly. I don't try to tell women of other ethnicities to acknowledge the quote unquote ugly people within their ethnicity. No, because I don't want to go out of my way to put someone down because of their background. Just because I say that mixed women or mixed looking women are pretty, it doesn't mean that I'm automatically calling other people ugly. But this channel is actually not created for people who have a lot of inferiority complexes. If you have a lot of inferiority complexes, this channel is not for you because you're going to be very offended by the confidence of the women on this channel. And that's another thing I've noticed. Whenever you have confidence, people get offended by that. People get offended when you like how you look. They feel like it's automatically you're being conceited. And it's like, so because I think I'm cute, that is me being conceited. In fact, people will even say you think you're cute as if it's a negative thing to think that you're cute. And I've also had people try to come to this community and say, well, these conversations aren't necessary. Like, we have so many more important things to worry about in this world. Okay, then why are you watching this channel then? You know, if you feel like you have more important things to do, by all means, go and do those things. But when I speak out about the things that are important to me, I'm only speaking out in hopes that others who can relate to this content will be able to find it validating for them. I always say that if you can relate to the content, then the content is for you. But if you cannot relate to this content, you're probably going to find it to be very offensive, particularly for those of you who do not feel like you have pretty privilege or you feel like you have no privileges at all. The cornerstone experience of people who are mixed or look mixed is that we have both a combination of being underprivileged and also receiving privilege. So that is something that I have not noticed on other people's channels. And, you know, there may be some nuances to their experiences. However, I haven't seen other people talking about it until this channel came about. So that's a coincidence. But this channel focuses on having a safe space while also offering solutions for overcoming some of the traumas that we've experienced. And I believe that every person should acknowledge their own personal traumas. So just because this channel may not address all of your traumas, that doesn't mean that like it's not a valid space. Everybody has a right to talk about the things that are important to them. And even if my channel doesn't survive, I've come to a point where there are other YouTube content creators who make similar content. So even if this channel doesn't survive, there will be someone else to replace me. So this talking point is not going anywhere. Pretty privilege is not going anywhere. Colorism, texturism, featurism, racism, anti-blackness, putting certain people on a pedestal because you think they look exotic or you like how they look, or, you know, you exotify their blackness and you exotify their Latin heritage and you exotify their whiteness or their Asian heritage. All of those things are not going anywhere, whether I create content or not. So what I've noticed is that a lot of people, they want to try to silence the YouTube channels over in this niche because they're threatened by the fact that we are a growing community. I mean, there are thousands of people who are coming onto this channel every single month. Ever since I went full time about 4 months ago, this channel has more than doubled in subscribers, and I'm sure that it will double again. Exotical tax! But I want to talk about how 25% mixed people deserve a voice too. I've noticed that whenever people, they use the term mixed, or they tend to only talk about biracials, like 50-50 black-white biracials in particular. I don't know why people try to pretend like that's the only way to be biracial. But here on this channel, one of my main goals is to actually bring visibility to mixed race people who do not fit the stereotype of being a 50% white, 50% black biracial, because there are so many different ways to be mixed. There are so many different percentages of mixes. There are white passing mixed people. There are black passing mixed people. There are Asian passing mixed people. And so one of my goals on this channel is to bring light to the fact that not all of us are 50% black, 50% white. That is one of the main cornerstone goals of this channel. But one thing I've noticed online is instead of doing the 1-drop rule, they do the 51% rule. And I just made that up just now. But they have this mindset that if you're 51 or more percent black, then you're just black. But I noticed they don't keep the same energy with people who are 51% white or more. They will give those people a pass and say, oh no, you're still part black. They will acknowledge their mixture with blackness, women like Janae Aiko, women like Meghan Markle, Even women like Mariah Carey with a lower admixture of African ancestry, people will acknowledge that those women are mixed. But suddenly, when you have more of a black phenotype, or when those percentages are in reverse, kind of like a Beyonce or a Rihanna, let's say you're 65% black and then the rest is like a mixture of other things, or you're 75% black and then the rest is something else, then suddenly people want to try to invalidate you. But this channel is never going to remain silent about the fact that 25% mixed people are still mixed. I don't care if they didn't grow up with their white grandmother. I don't care if they do not pass as white. I've noticed that in the mono black community, they're obsessed with your skin tone and how you look. So to mono black people, you are what you look like, or your race is what you look like, or you are defined based on your skin tone. So if you're light skinned, then you're like an enemy and you do not really count, even if you are monoracial. If you have a different hair texture or eye color or something like that, then you don't count. And then in the reverse, if you are darker skinned, then you are automatically just thrown into unambiguous blackness. So that's a very black and white view of how mixed people actually are. Here on this channel, because we understand multiculturalism and multi-generationally mixing, we are not swayed by the fact that, oh, this person has darker skin, or, oh, Chili, she tans to a dark chocolate skin tone. We don't care about that over here, because her tanning to a dark skin tone does not change what her actual DNA is. So if somebody is 25% of something, even if they are less, to be honest, they have the right to embrace whatever sides of themselves they want, because it's like, how come you only have smoke for the people with more blackness who want to embrace their non-black sides? You don't have smoke for people who have majority white ancestry or majority Asian ancestry and they want to embrace the little 5 or 10 or 20% black that they have. You guys don't have smoke for that, but I've noticed a lot of mono black people only have smoke for the people who have more black ancestry and they decide to love every part of themselves. But being less white doesn't mean that you are less mixed. And I've noticed that a lot of people, they make whiteness the standard for mixed race. And the reason that happens is because mixed race people ourselves have not come out and said, hey, no, actually, I'm also mixed. And, I have a darker skin tone. Or, hey, actually, I am mixed race and I am black and Indian instead of being just black and white. So that's the problem with allowing other people to speak for you. And I think that mixed race people, especially 25% mixers, have allowed other people to speak for them for too long. I think that people who are less than 50% white have felt invalidated for long enough. And so now we have created a safe space for the people who are not, you don't have a white parent, but you are still mixed. So maybe your parent is like Asian or something, or maybe you have a grandparent of another background, or maybe you are the child of two mixed race people. This channel welcomes all of those groups, but I've noticed that a lot of people, they want to try to invalidate you because they feel like you're not mixed enough. So once again, they're actually using anti-blackness against you because they're saying you're too black to be mixed. You're too dark-skinned to be mixed. So if you're 75% black and 25% white, like Ryan Destiny, and you look like her, they're going to give you anti-black talking points like, oh no, you're too black. Same thing with Chili. Like, they got mad when she did not call herself chocolate because they were like, no, you're too black to not call yourself chocolate. Like, you better call yourself chocolate, otherwise you're a colorist. And the bottom line is people have a right to take ownership over their own identities. So the way that some people view their identity is going to be based on how they look. For other people, it's going to be based on their DNA. For some people, they do it based on their percentages. So for example, let's say you're 75% black and 25% white. Some people will say, okay, so 75% of the time I'm going to rep my blackness, and then 25% of the time I'm going to rep the white side or my Latin side or whatever side is a part of your ancestry. But I've noticed that what happens is a lot of people who are less than 50% non-black, they get their mixed race experience robbed from them in a sense because people have spent so long bullying them into unambiguous blackness, and they want to clout chase off of your beauty. They want to clout chase off of your phenotype. So this is why we see people arguing up and down about Beyonce and Rihanna, and they'll say, well, no, they're only black and nothing else. You know that that's disingenuous just by looking at them. The average unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black person does not have a beige or golden skin tone, green eyes, and loose textured hair, or an Irish grandfather or an Irish father, or naturally sandy blonde hair or light brown hair. So the reason that a lot of mono unambiguous black people shoot themselves in the foot is because they like to start off using that argument. You have the same experience as me. You got the same skin tone as me. You got the same nose as me. You get the same black man. So they love using that talking point. But then when Beyonce and Rihanna represent them in the media, then suddenly they want to turn around and cry and say that you're replacing them. So a lot of unambiguous black women don't realize that they're actually shooting themselves in the foot by trying to force 75 percenters into unambiguous blackness, or they try to force ABWs into being an unambiguous black woman. By the way, when I say ABW, that means ambiguous black women. So women who look like Tyra Banks, for example, she identifies as just black. I believe she's 80% black or something like that. So I know she has admixture, but most people don't even know what admixture is. So she identifies as black, but she is an ambiguous black woman as opposed to an unambiguous black woman. The term unambiguous means you don't get mixed up for any other ethnicities. You know, whether you wear your hair straight, curly, whether it's summer, spring, winter, or fall, you are black all the time. So it's not like, oh, in the summertime I look black and then in the wintertime I look Latina. No, if you're unambiguous, you don't have that experience. But if you're an ABW, like Tyra Banks, then depending on how you wear your hair, depending on the time of year, depending on how you do your makeup and your contouring and stuff, you can pass for either being more black leaning or you can pass for something else, like being a mixed person who is black and something else. And so ABWs benefit from either colorism, texturism, or featureism, or a combination of all of those things. But the way that mono black women hurt themselves is they want ABWs to represent UABWs. And that's never going to work because all you're going to do is you're going to have Hollywood being filled with Tyras and Beyoncés and Rihannas, just like how we have now. So if you don't allow ABWs to acknowledge their experience, and if you don't allow 25% mixed people or people who are less than 50% white, if you don't allow those people with less admixture to talk about their experiences, then you will consistently get replaced. So trying to silence us and all that and trying to force us into unambiguous blackness, all you're doing is forcing us to replace you or trying to bully us into representing you. And I talk on this channel all the time about how you should never beg others to be your representation. Who's going to be a better representative than yourself? And so this channel is created for women who have less than 50% admixture to have a safe space to talk about how they also get pushed in and out of blackness, or how, they get shamed out of embracing being mixed race because they do not have a white parent. And it's funny because I haven't really seen this experience outside of the mono black community, but then again, I actually don't know. But if you go to like the mixed race Reddit page, there are plenty of people on there who have a 25% admixture who strongly identify as being mixed race. All you have to do, there are so many people who go on there and they'll be like, am I mixed? And then they'll say, my grandma's Asian and my dad is white. And I've noticed that a lot of people in the mixed race subreddit, they understand the concept of having different percentages of mixtures. So yes, some people have a black parent and a white parent. Some people have a black parent and an Asian parent. Some people have a black parent and a biracial parent, which causes the child to still be mixed race. So that means people like Sasha and Malia Obama. To pretend that Sasha and Malia Obama will not benefit from colorism, texturism, or featureism is disingenuous. If biracials are non-black and you have a biracial parent, that means that you have a non-black parent. So a lot of people in the mono-black community, they feel like they have the right to police who's mixed and who's not. But it's like, no, you're not even a part of the mixed race community. How are you going to police a community that you're not even a part of? I don't see how you can hate from outside of the club. You can't even get in. The whole difference between being an unambiguous black woman and an ABW or mixed race woman is your experiences with colorism, texturism, and featureism. So to expect people who look like Sasha and Malia Obama to represent unambiguous blackness, you're going to run into the same problem. All they're going to do is exacerbate the problem, and then they're going to continue the cycle of the lighter women or the women with these different hair textures and stuff and the lighter eye colors and stuff constantly representing unambiguous blackness. And then you turn around and get mad when women like this say, oh, I see myself as mixed race. You turn around and get mad when they talk about their Latin heritage or when they talk about their other backgrounds or when they show respect to their Indian culture. And by the way, anything that I talk about on this YouTube channel, it's not a hard and fast rule. This is just the internet, so I know that people in real life are going to have different experiences. But I just feel like once you hit the 25% mark, you are undeniably mixed because 1/4 of your DNA, that's a huge chunk to the point where, yes, you're going to come out with a totally different skin tone, or you might have a whole different hair texture, or you may have a totally different eye color, totally different facial features. And I've noticed that at the 25% mark, that is when people start asking questions like, what are you? And I've also noticed that if you look at other groups that they really care a lot about preserving their identities, like a lot of Native American groups in my home state, they went by the 25% rule. Like if you were 25% more of Native American ancestry, then you can get like the tribal card and all that. Also, I remember on Chrissy's channel a few years ago, she was talking about mixed people creating their own community. There was like a petition going around and stuff. And the standards on that petition that was gaining popularity in the UK was 25% or more. So I just feel like at that 25% mark, I don't care what you look like. You are undeniably mixed race because at that point, that's like having a whole grandparent from Ireland. The average unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black woman who experiences things like colorism, texturism, or featureism does not have a white grandma from Ireland. And that's okay. Black women have told us to get out of their spaces, unambiguous, monoracial, dark skinned black women. They've told us get out of their spaces, stop representing them. So that's what we're doing over here. We are acknowledging our privileges over here. We are acknowledging that we do benefit from colorism, texturism, featureism, or a combination of those things. But I've noticed that something else people get mad about is they get mad when you have privileges and they don't. So, for example, they get mad because, you look more white or something. And it's like, for me personally, I'm not going to waste my energy getting mad at somebody who looks whiter than me. It's better for me to focus on the privileges that I have in life and capitalize off of those privileges as much as I can. So I've noticed for a lot of people who have inferiority complexes, they don't feel like they have any privileges whatsoever. And so because of that, they are triggered by anyone who does have privileges. And so if you are one of those people who gets triggered by privilege, then this is not the channel for you because this channel discusses things like dark femininity. I talk about social climbing. I talk about privilege stacking. And for the people who say, oh, well, it's rude for you to like come on here and be insensitive towards people's struggles, and it's rude for you to like talk about privileges. You guys are trying to brag and you guys are like thinking you're better and thinking you're superior, and you guys are trying to use your privileges to get ahead in the world. And it's like, I didn't create all of these privileges that we live in. I didn't create pretty privilege. I didn't create fat phobia. I didn't create all of these isms that people are experiencing. But the bottom line is, I like to deal in reality. I don't like to come onto YouTube and lie to people and be like, oh, everybody should just love themselves and we should all just come together and kumbaya. No, I'm not going to come on here and lie to people because I understand that we live in a world that does judge you based on how you look. This world does give people certain privileges. So if you happen to be born a certain way, you can't help how you were born. Or if you choose to capitalize off of how you look. Like you can't be mad at Beyonce because she chose to capitalize off of her beauty. People do that all the time. And I've noticed that people will pick and choose who they want to police. And it's like, oh, well, this channel is racist. They'll try to say this channel is racist against unambiguous dark-skinned black women. And it's like, do you keep that same energy with all of the racist companies that you shop at? Do you keep the same energy with the politicians that you don't speak out against? Do you keep the same energy when it comes to your own personal beauty standards? I don't think so. So why is it that suddenly when a random small YouTube channel wants to talk about our experiences, now you want to try to pretend like you're a social justice warrior? Not everybody wants to be a social justice warrior. This is not a social justice YouTube channel. So if you care a lot about social justice and if you're a social justice warrior, please do us all a favor and unsubscribe right now, because this channel is not about training mixed women on how to be social justice warriors. This channel isn't about training people to be social activists. Not everybody wants to be an activist. Not everybody wants to be the moral police. So I say it all the time. I didn't come on YouTube to be Martin Luther King. I'm not Rosa Parks. And I didn't come on here to be fucking Mother Teresa. I came on here to talk about reality. So the reality is we live in a capitalistic world. We live in a world where people have privileges depending on different factors. It could be what you look like, it can be your socioeconomic status. So if you want to get out of the game and sit on the sidelines, that's fine. But go ahead and sit on the sidelines. And here on this channel, we are going to play the game and we are going to use that game to our advantage. People who get mad at me for saying, yeah, some of us do have mixed privilege or light skin privilege, or we benefit from featureism or texturism or whatever. People who get mad at me for saying that, those are the same people who get mad at others for saying, yes, I benefited from pretty privilege and that's a part of why I'm here. So it's like people love to talk about pretty privilege, but you're only allowed to talk about pretty privilege if you're not pretty. You're only allowed to talk about colorism, texturism, and featureism if you do not benefit from those things. But we're not scared of being politically incorrect over here. I didn't come on YouTube so that I can be politically correct. I didn't come on here so that I can lie and appease people's false sense of morality. So I'm not going to waste my time virtue signaling. But when it comes to people who are 25% mixed, if they choose to embrace and also benefit from their mixed race background or their multiracial background, and they choose to embrace being Creole or representing that part of their heritage or using their background to relate to people from that community, then they have every right to do so. And also, isn't that a part of kind of like ending the division that we have in our communities? Like, aren't we trying to end things like racism? Aren't we trying to end all of these harsh separations between the different racial groups? Okay, so who better to try to be a bridge between Black and Filipino people than her, the singer, who happens to be both Black and Filipino? Who better to talk about Creole people than Beyonce herself, who has access to both the Creole community and she has access to the unambiguous Black community? So that's all I'm saying on this channel. I'm saying that you have the right to use whatever pieces of your identity you want to use in order to benefit off of it. And the only people who get mad at privilege are the people who don't have any. But what those people don't understand is that privilege is something that is attainable. You can attain different privileges depending on how you dress, depending on the money you have, or you can try to earn more money so that you can have more wealth privilege. A lot of unambiguous monoracial people don't want to admit that they try to look more mixed so that they can benefit from racial ambiguity privilege, or they can benefit from looking like a mixed race person or looking like an Asian person, or whatever group they're trying to appeal to. Celebrities do that all the time. They play around with their ambiguity even if they're monoracial. So why is it that every other race of women can play around with her ambiguity, but suddenly if you actually are ambiguous and you have a mixed race background or you naturally look that way, then suddenly you're banned from doing that? No, you're just trying to ban us from doing that because you know that we will have an easier time achieving those things because that's our actual identity or our actual appearance. So the only people who would try to bully a 25% mixed person out of claiming their mixed heritage is someone who is trying to use reverse psychology to keep them at the bottom of a social hierarchy. So I don't think that there is just one social hierarchy. I think that different people put different things on a pedestal. But if you're trying to police someone out of claiming being mixed because they're only 25% of the other ancestry, then you put being mixed race on a hierarchy and you're mad because you don't want them to be able to access that mixed race pedestal that you have in your mind. So just because someone claims being mixed, it doesn't mean that they think that they are better because they're mixed. They're simply stating a fact. But you think that that person is better because they're mixed, and that's why you're mad at them claiming to be mixed. I don't get mad at women that talk about their Asian background or their white background. I don't get mad at unambiguous women who talk about being unambiguous and they say black girl magic or they call themselves chocolate queen or melanin goddess and stuff like that. I don't get mad because I don't have a sense of competition where it's like, oh, I feel like they think they're better than me. So like, I want to try to humble them to make sure that she doesn't think that her dark skin tone is better than my light skin tone. No, I don't have a desire to do that because I understand that everybody has their own unique path in life. So depending on what your path is in life, Maybe you benefit more from calling yourself melanin goddess or chocolate queen or whatever. Maybe that helps you to connect with people who look like yourself. Maybe that's why you are calling yourself that. So I understand that everybody is pursuing some form of social status in this society, and anybody who says they're not is a liar. So everything that you do, whether you realize it or not, yeah, you are trying to build yourself up, or at least I would hope that you're trying to build yourself up. You're trying to improve your life. You're trying to access different spaces, or maybe you want to date a certain type of guy or whatever. So I don't get mad at people for doing that. But I've noticed that if somebody has an inferiority complex or they have a crabs in a bucket mentality, they don't want you to social climb. And I've noticed that whatever people get triggered by the most, that reveals that you just achieved their social climbing goals. So if they're mad at you because you're 25% and you are claiming that you're mixed race now, like you choose to embrace that identity from here on out, then they get mad because deep down inside, they wish that they could do the same thing. I've even noticed this with mixed people who are afraid of embracing their identities. They're afraid of claiming being mixed. So then they will get mad at people who are mixed race and they're proud of being mixed. So that person is jealous because they know that you can use your mixed race heritage to social climb, whether it's within the mixed community, whether it's within, your other ethnic background, or like you can use that background to relate to those people. Like let's say you're Blasian and you want to be proud of being Blasian. The people who would try to bully you out of that, they're just jealous because they wish that they had access to the beautiful Asian community. They wish that they had closer proximity to those other ethnic groups, and so they feel left out. They feel left behind. That's really what it is a lot of times. And I'm not saying that monoracial people can't become multicultural, because they can. But I've noticed that some people, they literally will get jealous of your DNA. They are mad because they're insecure about their own ethnicity. They're insecure about being a monoracial white woman. They're insecure about being a monoracial black woman. And so when they see someone who has more of a fluid identity in terms of their ethnic background, then they become triggered by that. But you guys know what I always say. When it comes to attaining privileges, you only have two options. Either change yourself to attain that privilege, or you have no choice but to accept that someone will always have more privilege than you in that particular area. So you have to just accept, you have to take the L or whatever and accept the fact that, hey, people who are rich, they're always going to live in a bigger house than me. Or people who are rich, they're always going to have maybe more access to luxury experiences than I am. And by the way, there's no such thing as a person who is just the most privileged person in the world and like everything about their life is perfect. There's no such thing as that. But I've noticed that the people who have a scarcity mindset, they actually do believe that there is a such thing as being this perfect person with this perfect life and all of these perfect privileges. So it's the people with the scarcity mindset that get triggered when they see other people trying to social climb. And the bottom line is everyone is social climbing in one way or another, and the people who are not are the perpetual victims. The people who do not level up are perpetually at the bottom. So they would be at the bottom of whatever social hierarchy they believe in. They'd be at the bottom of society or whatever part of society they live in. And I'm not trying to say that that's a good thing, because of course I think that we live in a messed up world. But the question is, now what? So you came here onto the spinning ball that we call Earth, and it's very messed up, and certain people get rewarded for certain things while others don't. So now what are you going to do about it? On this channel, it's about taking back your power. It's about taking back your sense of identity. So that includes your racial identity. That includes your beauty. That includes your body and your sexuality, which is part of why I talk about decentering men, not giving certain men access to you if you feel like they don't deserve it. And also, when it comes to the whole embracing your mixed identity, if you are 25% of another race, part of why I am such a big proponent of that is because by acknowledging being multiracial, you're actually acknowledging your privilege in and of itself, instead of trying to pretend to be an unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black woman when you're not. So Chili is actually correct when she acknowledges being black and also having other ancestries. Women who have like white grandparents, like Ryan Destiny, she is acknowledging that sense of, still having a mixed race background. So other people won't be able to come for Ryan Destiny and say, oh, you're just here because you're benefiting from texturism or featureism. Well, she's acknowledging that she could potentially be benefiting from those things by acknowledging the fact that she has mixed ancestry in the first place. We all know that there are certain spaces where being mixed race can be a social privilege. And so by acknowledging that, you are acknowledging your privilege. So now nobody can check you and say, well, you're not acknowledging your privilege. And also, acknowledging being mixed doesn't mean you're denying being black. That's another stereotype and misconception that I want to get rid of. A lot of people think that by saying, hey, I'm multiracial or I'm multi-generationally mixed, black and white, a lot of people think that by saying that you're denying your blackness. You're not denying your blackness. You're just saying I'm black and something else. And that's why I look the way I do. That's why, my experiences may be a little bit different, and I'm acknowledging that. Anytime a mixed race person tries to downplay their mixture or tries to hide their mixture, that is contributing to replacing unambiguous black women. And I'm not going to do that. I don't want to replace unambiguous black women. They do deserve their own spaces and to be their own representation and, to speak for themselves. And so any mixed person who denies being mixed or tries to pretend like, oh, I'm mixed race, but it doesn't matter at all. I'm exactly the same. I look exactly the same. They're being disingenuous and contributing to the quote unquote erasure of those unambiguous black women that they're trying to cape for. But yeah, I believe that at 25%, that's not even admixture anymore. There's not even an argument at that point because that's 1/4 of who you are. And then for the people who try to argue and say, oh, you're just trying to hold on to that 25%, making the whole talking point that you're trying to escape your blackness, it's like, well, first of all, yes, I do want to hold on to every part of my identity. So just because you deny whatever parts of your identity you choose to, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do that, because a part of self-love is loving every part of myself or accepting every part of myself. So yes, that includes accepting who my grandparent is, or accepting the fact that my mom is a biracial woman, or accepting the fact that I may look different than others, or I may eat different foods during the holidays. So yeah, I feel like 25%ers have the right to embrace themselves. And honestly, I don't identity police people in real life. So even if you have a lower admixture than that and you choose to embrace that part of yourself and you want to love yourself, I actually encourage that. The only reason that I put the 25% or more mark on this channel was to avoid confusion and to establish my core audience. You guys know that I'm very obsessed with trying to target who my core audience is. So there are multiple different types of people that would be in my core audience. So the reason why I'm so specific on some of these things is because I'm just trying to help people who can resonate with this channel. I'm trying to help them recognize like, hey, this channel resonates with you. And it's also to avoid confusion, because I've noticed that race, it's still a social construct, so I understand that. And so different people are going to have different definitions of what constitutes someone's race. And so that's why on this channel, I just had to establish kind of like a limit, because I do not consider this to be one of those channels that says, we are all mixed. I believe that a lot of people have different admixtures, but the way that I use those terms on this channel is that I consider admixture to be like less than 25%, to the point where, maybe it doesn't affect your phenotype at all. It didn't affect your cultural experiences at all. It doesn't affect how you see yourself at all. And by the way, I do believe that people should embrace their admixtures as well. But I brought up the 25% talking point to establish the fact that once you hit that 25% mark, I just feel like there's not even an argument anymore. Oftentimes your phenotype is going to come out looking totally different, or you could look like anything from the rainbow. And so all I'm doing is I'm just trying to bring nuance to the conversation. So that's why I use the 25% mark on this channel. It's not supposed to be a blood quantum rule or anything. I never walk up to people in real life and say, you can't embrace that because you're not 25%. I don't actually do that. This is really just for editing purposes too. So this channel isn't supposed to invalidate anyone. It's just supposed to help bring nuance to the conversations that we have around race. And I've noticed that for a lot of Black mixed people, you have been bullied into not claiming your non-Blackness because you have such solidarity and such love for the Black community to where you don't want to do or say anything that could come off as anti-Black. But I've noticed that some people they've become so extreme with accusing everyone of being anti-black to the point where if you embrace who you are, then you're colorist. If you embrace what you look like, you're featurist or texturist. And so I feel like the conversation has gone too far. And another reason that I address unambiguous black women on this channel, because people will say, how come you address unambiguous black women more than other people? And it's because everybody else is scared of black women. I'm not. Everybody else on YouTube is scared to bring smoke to unambiguous black women, I've noticed. Like, I haven't seen any channels online where they are specifically focusing on the nuances of their experiences and their interactions with unambiguous black women. I would say maybe some of the black men, I guess, but this isn't, this is from a woman's perspective. So I've never seen any other women's channels where they are addressing their experiences with unambiguous black women. And so that is one of the main things that makes my channel stand out. That's one of the main things that makes this niche stand out. It's one of the main reasons why there are thousands of people on this channel and why it's getting hundreds of thousands of views per month. It's because I'm discussing something that people are afraid to speak on. I'm talking about things that have remained unspoken. And so that includes my experiences with unambiguous black women. Also, I can only speak from my perspective. So I did go to an HBCU. So I have more experience with like living in a black community and being around those spaces. So that's all I can speak from is my experiences. And I also like to use the controversy of discussing our experiences with black women because, like I said, nobody else is doing that. Everybody else is too scared to be called colorist, texturist, featurist, or racist, and a lot of people have been silenced for so long. But the reason that I feel that I can discuss unambiguous black women is because I feel like I can relate to the experience. According to people who use the one drop rule, they're going to drop us into blackness anyway. So why not use that to my advantage and flip it so that I can talk from my perspective? Because you can't call me racist if I'm still a part of that race, according to other people, right? And so I get to use my fluid identity to my advantage. So that means I get to successfully jump in and out of blackness at will. And so me discussing the dynamics that I experience with unambiguous black women, that's me jumping back into blackness to talk about that because, that has been a part of my experience. And then I've also talked about experiencing basic Bettys at work. So these are white women. I've also told my story on this channel of, when I worked at my accounting job and dealing with a jealous Latin American woman and my experience with that. But I have noticed, though, that a lot of other women on YouTube, they're too scared to name any of the flaws that they've seen with black women. And so it has given unambiguous black women freedom to bully whoever they want, freedom to call people all kinds of names. And because a lot of people have, I guess, felt sorry for them or put them in a victim box, that allows people to think that it's okay for them to spew hatred against mixed race black women. But here on this channel, I'm not tolerating it. So, and like I said, at this point, this channel is proof of concept. Thousands of us can't be lying. So the fact that we've got people writing in their stories, by the way, the Exotical Storytime series, it is still on. I'm still doing it. I just have to edit the videos. So thousands of us can't be lying about our experiences as mixed black women. So a lot of people, they don't like to acknowledge the nuances of the experience of being mixed or looking mixed. And so there is now a space for this on YouTube. There is now a niche for this on YouTube. And like I said, even if this channel is gone, there will be somebody to replace me. There will be somebody else who has a similar background to me who will now feel the freedom to speak on her experiences. And there already are a bunch of you guys creating your own YouTube channels. Shout out to Multiracial Movement, Golden Goddess, All Mixed Up, Brown Skin Exoticals. Shout out to all of the content creators who are speaking out about their experiences in this area because we are not going to be silenced. And also, you don't need anyone's permission to be who you are. You don't need anyone's permission to talk about your own experiences. And that's another reason why it's important for us to speak up, because other people can't argue with your experiences. And so they can accuse you of lying, but there are 15,000 of us on this channel at this point. So we can't all be lying. We can't all just be making this up. It's not like we all had some coalition where we came together decades ago and said, okay, let's all lie about this. No. If you look at the Exotical Storytime series, you will see that a lot of us have similar experiences, and our experiences are explicit experiences. You know how people say, oh, you're just assuming that she was jealous because you were mixed. You're just assuming that she didn't like you because you were light skinned. And it's like, no, if you listen to the Exotical Storytime series, a lot of those stories have people directly commenting on skin tone and directly commenting on things like hair texture, whereas on a lot of the unambiguous women's channels, they don't even have stories where they say that somebody actually said, you are too dark for this. Or, a lot of their talking points are based on speculation. Like, oh, Kelly isn't as famous as Beyonce because she is dark skinned. And they're completely ignoring the fact that Beyonce can sing her butt off. They're completely ignoring the fact that Beyonce spent more time on her music and that she continued to make more and more songs and that she continues to travel and go on all these tours. They're completely ignoring all of that, and they are chalking it all up to colorism. But here on this channel, I don't chalk everything up to you don't like it because we're light skinned. You don't like it because so-and-so is mixed. You don't like it because she has curly hair. No, I don't chalk it up to that. I allow the subscribers themselves to write in and tell their personal stories and personal experiences with those things. And I publish the stories where they are explicitly mentioning their skin tone or hair texture, or they are stereotyping. This channel is not just only based on speculation. But anyway, what do you ladies think? Do you have a 25% mixture? Have you ever felt bullied into only embracing being monoracial? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.